Hey folks, it's the Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Time once again for another monthly episode of Bike News, where I go through the motorcycling press here in the UK for the month of October 2021 and tell you what's been going on. So if you're interested in that, stick around and stay tuned. Alright, well you know the format by now, 4 papers to go through, loads of stories to cover, lots of stuff been going on this month, and I hesitate to say it, but another month's gone already. What has been going on? I don't know. Anyway, right, first paper then, a few stories here to pick out. First one that's been all over the social media and motorcycling press for the last month is the brand new from Suzuki GSX-S1000 GT. This is a brand new touring, a sport tourer, old school sport tourer from Suzuki, and it's been getting a lot of plaudits. The launch was this month. I didn't go along, it was in Scotland, it was a bit rainy. I was elsewhere in sunnier climes, hence the suntan. But anyway, all reports are that it seems to be a great bike. More about how it actually rides in a minute, but let's just look at the sort of top line of it, if you like. So Suzuki have unveiled a new sports touring version of the recently updated GSX-S1000. It uses the same 150 brake horsepower engine, so this is going to be a rocket ship. It has touring-friendly plastics with a comfortable upright riding position, so great for us oldies with our aches and pains. The bike will be a sportier and cheaper alternative to the Suzuki V-Strom 1050 XT Tour. That's a bike that I've ridden recently, and I've got videos going up on the channel at the moment, a bike that I loved. And it will replace the GSX-S1000F as the firm's long-range road option. That's the bike that I often refer to as the Bat bike. It was, again, a bike I rode earlier this year, actually. I'll put a link in the corner if you haven't seen the reviews to that, because that's, I think, got the same engine, albeit maybe not as quite as updated. But I absolutely loved that bike as a touring option, but the looks are a little bit divisive. This one has brought the bike, well, it's not the same bike, but it's brought the sort of sports touring genre for Suzuki bang up to date. It's got a bit of Kawasaki S1000 SX about it for sure, maybe with a little bit of Panigale at the front as well. I don't know, something like that. It's difficult to tell from pictures sometimes. I'm not quite sure from the pictures whether I like the look of it or not, but I will reserve judgment until I see one in the flesh, which I haven't done yet, because I've made this statement before and I've said, oh, that's a pig ugly bike, and then when I've actually saw it, I've quite liked it. So I'll reserve judgment on the looks. It's not ugly for sure, but I'm not sure if it's beautiful either, but certainly it looks like it's going to be an absolute winner. I think this is the best bike that Suzuki have come out with, in terms of, on paper at least, for many years. 999cc, 810mm seat height, which is nice and low, well, relatively, at least for, you know, average size people, and it's available from 11,599. Incredible. Talk a bit more about the spec a bit later, because in a few papers time there's an actual ride review of the bike, so we'll come back to this, but very excited to see this, and I cannot wait to have a go. Suzuki, if you're watching, can I have a go at the new GT, please? Thank you very much. All right, next story in this first paper. New for old, Kawasaki give their mid-size Z650 the retro RS treatment. Now, I'm a big sucker for retro bikes. I absolutely love them. I have a Speed Twin myself and a Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. They just, to me, they just look like motorcycles should look. And I was definitely a huge fan of the Kawasaki Z900RS. In fact, still in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking I might want to get one of those one day. Well, they've now come out with the 650 version of the bike, if you like. They've taken the 650 engine and made it into a naked model in the same way as they did with the Z900RS. Anyway, let me read you some of the highlights here. Kawasaki have expanded their retro naked model range to include the A2 friendly Z650RS. It's powered by the 649cc twin from the Z650 and Ninja 650 models, puts out 67 brake horsepower, which I would propose is a perfect amount of power for real world riding. So the only thing, I mean, it looks fantastic. I have to say, I love the paint scheme on this, green with gold wheels. It's actually exactly the same as my Interceptor that I recently had customised, which more a bit later perhaps. And when Kawasaki came out with this, I had a little smirk to myself, because it is exactly the colour scheme that I would choose of any bike. I love green and gold, you cannot go wrong. So it looks splendid. My only slight disappointment is that it is a twin. Wouldn't it have been lovely if it was a 4-cylinder 650? But there we go, it's the 650 they're using from existing bikes, which is a twin, so there we are. What else to say here? The frame has been specially designed to be skinny in the middle to make it easier for riders to get their feet down. It's got a seat height of 820mm, this, so not too high, but not too low either. And it's got a relatively low curb weight of 187 kilograms. So that's curb weight, so wet with fuel. That is quite low. So yeah, looks lovely. Again, I'd love to go on one of these. I don't often ride Kawasaki's because I don't actually have access to Kawasaki's very easily, but I might have to have a chat with a local dealer, see if I can get myself a go on one of these once they become available. It certainly looks a cracking bike. I don't know, maybe there's a problem with all us bikers getting older and us liking this sort of thing, and maybe we need to move on and go with the more modern bikes, but it certainly appeals to me. I love the clocks, the way that they're bullet shaped. I love the finish on the light, the colours, everything. I love it. Anyway, I like that, as you gathered. All right, moving on. Okay, CCM, this is a manufacturer I don't talk about too much. Colin Clues Motorcycles, I believe it stands for. I have ridden a CCM in the past. I rode Henry Cole's, I think it was called a flat tracker version of the Spitfire. And it was an interesting bike in that it looks lovely. They're beautifully designed, beautifully made bikes, amazing hand-welded frames, and they look lovely. But CCM have never been a mainstream manufacturer. They've always made these bikes in limited runs, and you can get through, I can't remember what the details are. Is it the special vehicle rules, something like SVA rules, something like that? If you make a limited run, I think if you do something like less than 200 bikes, you can make them without having to comply with all the European rules that you would have to if you're doing a mass-produced bike. And that is why they're always coming out with different versions of the same bike, so they can kind of get around those rules. It's a little bit sneaky, really. Well, that might be about to change because this big backer for CCM, it says here, CCM's 50th birthday present has just arrived in the form of a huge chunk of investment. Brilliant news. The cash injection will help homologate CCM bikes for other key markets. So I think that means they'll be able to get around this 200 model limit and make models that they can then sell across the board, because they'll have money to make sure they're homologated for all the rules. A company called Pitalia Capital has got involved. They're also Bolton based, that's where CCM are as well. Apparently they got involved after the head of the company, Anil Pitalia, if I'm probably not pronouncing that right, apologies Anil. He saw one of the firm's stunning RAF Spitfires. He loved the bike so much, he decided to look at investing in the company. So there we go, great news, British motorcycle company. Always good news to see British bikes getting on. I love the idea of CCMs. It would be brilliant to see them a little bit more mainstream. It doesn't say how much money has been injected. Clearly making motorcycles is an expensive business if you're going to do it en masse, so we'll see how that goes, but that's good news. Right, next up, electric bikes. We haven't mentioned these for a while, and they always have mixed responses, but this is an interesting story. The headline here, charged up in 90 seconds. What is that all about, I hear you say? Brand new battery type could be electric vehicle breakthrough. Big story as far as I'm concerned. Didn't make much headline news, but this sounds amazing to me. So it says here, powertrain experts Marl, together with Allotrope Energy, have created a new form of battery technology that promises to end concerns about charging times once and for all. Fantastic. Lithium carbon hybrids is what they've come up with, and apparently they can be charged in just minutes. The size of the battery required, for example, by an electric delivery scooter, could be recharged in as little as 90 seconds. Can you imagine that? Quicker than fueling up with fuel. Miles say the battery remains stable at high temperatures, meaning it can take a high current delivery without external cooling or elaborate battery management. Well, that sounds amazing, and in fact, I'm tempted to say it sounds too good to be true, and you know what it's like when things sound too good to be true. So we'll see how that goes. Let's hope this is absolutely true, and that we are in line for some batteries that can be charged up in a matter of minutes. I mean, crikey, a scooter that you can charge up in 90 seconds, that would be a no-brainer for city living, wouldn't it? And, you know, we all know the pros and cons for electric bikes, but one of those cons has been the charge time. If we can get it down to a matter of minutes, then that's one of those barriers to entry gone. Then we've just got to get the range sorted, and we've got to get the price sorted. Doesn't mention anything about how much these are going to cost or what sort of range you get, but fingers crossed, battery technology improving all the time. Maybe that's one you know, is going to benefit us all in the future, not just for scooter riders. Right, next here, Super Naked class of 2021. Now this is a class of bikes that is very popular, and again it appeals to me because you get a modern bike but a comfortable riding position. So if you're a bit of an old cronky like me, I'm in my mid-50s, then these sort of bikes are great. All the thrill of a sports bike, all the comfort of those retros I was talking about just now. So here they've pitted the Trance Speed Triple RS against the Aprilia Tuono V4 Factory, BMW S1000 R Sport and the Ducati Street Fighter V4S. Personally, I've ridden the Speed Triple and the, in fact I've ridden all these in one incarnation or other, not necessarily the latest version of each. But for me, I love the Street Fighter. You know, money no object is also the most expensive out of some, you know, by some margin at 20,205. But I just thought the Street Fighter was a fantastic bike. And if I had room and money, I would have one of those in my garage today. I rode the S1000R a while ago, not in its latest incarnation. I rode the asymmetric fronted one. It has been improved now with its looks, but I don't know, it just doesn't look quite the same, as good as the others to me, but it is the cheapest of the batch. The Tuono V4 Factory, a lovely bike. It looks great, it goes great. Everybody loves a Tuono, don't they? And then the Speed Triple 1200 RS, which has been getting a lot of airplay in various press outlets for the last year. Rode that at Goodwood Festival Speed, had it for a couple of weeks myself. Lovely bike, but it didn't quite tickle my fancy as much as the Street Fighter. All right, let's see what MCN made of them then. Okay, sharp, crisp and easy to live with. This is Michael Neves, my favourite reviewer on MCN. So he says, each bike impresses in its own inimitable way. The BMW is the one you'd choose to live with every day. The stiff Triumph is more at home on the track, which is not something I'm particularly into, so strike that one off. The Ducati is the ultimate temptress, but the Aprilia easily hangs on to the super naked crown. Its engine is still a heart-melting masterpiece, and the way the tyres grip the road and the suspension floats along the tarmac borders on spiritual. So there we go. Neves loves the Tuono. He's always been a Tuono fan. In terms of the ratings he's given them, the Tuono 5 stars, the Street Fighter 5 stars, the BMW 4 and the Triumph 4, which I think actually is the sort of rating I would go for as well, but I'll put the Street Fighter above the Tuono personally. Just a personal opinion. I'm not an expert. Nevesy is, but of course the best way is, this is all opinion at the end of the day. Go ride them yourself if you're interested. See which one you like. I'll bet you wouldn't be disappointed with any of them. They're all great these days, aren't they? All right, that's it for the first paper. Next up, loads of stories to go through this week. I'm rushing a bit because the camera has a habit of overheating, and I suspect it might do that. If it does do that this time, we'll just do it in 2 parts. But anyway, so if I cut off suddenly, that's what's going on there. Incidentally, GoPro have just brought out a new version of the Hero. I think it's called the Hero 11 now. Wondering whether to buy one of those. Have you got one of those? If you have, let me know if it overheats or not. If it doesn't, I might get one. Right, moving on. Back to the bike news. Second paper. New Tiger to attack rivals. Here we go. Yet another new bike from Triumph. They've been knocking them out like nobody's business this year, haven't they? So here we are. This is the new Tiger Sport 660. Triumph have unveiled a feisty yet refined Tiger Sport 660 in a bid to rule the lucrative middleweight adventure sport sector. A road-biased model with 17-inch wheels, an upright riding position and a middleweight engine is what it's got. It's got an 835mm seat height, quite high unfortunately, and 206 kilograms wet weight, so reasonably light wet weight again. It's got 80 brake horsepower, ample for the road, perfect for the road I say. The Tiger Sport is essentially a Trident for those who want to travel a bit further, and the Trident was a great bike to ride. I love triple engines, they sound fantastic. Triumph are targeting bikes like Yamaha's Trace 7 and Kawasaki's Versys 650. Prices will start at 8,450 for the blue one, and a couple of hundred more for the reddy orangey coloured one. Why they have to charge more for different colours, I don't know, but at least blue and red are a little bit more interesting than grey, so thank you Triumph there for giving us some slightly better colours. On paper, at least the Trumpet looks good and looks to be very good value. It'll be available in dealers from February, so I'd love to have a go on one of these. I think this will be a massive seller for Triumph. I'm not too sure again about the looks. I'm not going to draw any huge conclusions just by looking at these pictures because I've not seen one in the flesh. But there's something a bit too uprighty about it, I think. If they just raked the screen a bit more, I don't know, maybe it would have made the nose look too long, I don't know. Then I think it could have looked better. Or maybe this touring screen needs to be a bit shorter. If the screen was a bit shorter, it'd look more like the old 1050 Sport, wouldn't it? Which I loved. But 660 engine, triple, lovely, and it seems like it's great pricing too. So interested to hear what you think about that in the comments below. But yeah, nice looking bike. Look forward to having a go on one of those, and Triumph are pretty good to me, so hopefully I'll get a go on one of those next year. All right, next up, multi-choice just got easier. So this is the Multistrada V2. Who doesn't like a Multistrada, eh? Is there anybody out there that doesn't like a Multistrada? Let me know if not. I think it's one of those bikes that everybody just loves, don't they? I mean, I suppose, like, you know, expensive Italian bikes have a bit of a reputation. I think ill-founded, based on my experience of owning a Panigale from Ducati. I've had no problems with that at all, really. Nothing major anyway. No more than any other bike. And I think you'd be absolutely thrilled with any of the Multistradas. But this is the V2, as I say. Ducati are giving their V-twin Multistrada a makeover for 2022. It's 5 kilograms lighter. The V2 gets the latest 937cc Testa Stretta V-twin, and it produces a claimed 113 horsepower at 72.3 72.3 pound-feet of torque. So this is the baby bike, but it's still putting out 113 horsepower, which is blooming ample, isn't it? A lovely looking machine as well. Although not the 155 brake horsepower twin from the Panigale V2 sports bike, the engine features new Conrods, new 8-disc hydraulic clutch and an updated gearbox. Well, this bike isn't so much about raw speed as it's all about touring, and it certainly looks lovely. I have to say, this looks nicer, doesn't it, than the Triumph we just looked at. But pricing wise, the stock one comes in at 12,495, so was that £4 more than the stock Triumph, and the S version, which is the one you probably want, comes in at 14,495. So 14.5 grand makes me think it is still quite an expensive bike. Not everybody's got that sort of money, and if you're in that market, you could get that Suzuki GT we just talked about with its bigger engine, more room, etc. So it's down to, I guess, whether you want to pay a premium for Italian Exotica or not. And I do wonder, if you bought the V2 version of the bike, whether really you haven't got bragging rights because you really be thinking, oh, she's got the V4S after all. I don't know, maybe that doesn't matter to you. Doesn't, I like to think it doesn't matter to me, but niggling in the back of your brain somewhere, there's sometimes that sort of thought, isn't there, if you go small. Having said that, I bought the 899 Panigale, purposely bought the smaller version of that bike, and I've never once thought, I wish I'd bought the bigger bike, so maybe that's not the case with this, but lovely looking bike. I must have a little word with Ducati. I haven't ridden many Ducatis in the last year. Maybe next year's my chance to try these new Multistradas. Not ridden one for a few years. Would love to get my hands on one for a couple of weeks to give that a go. So yeah, again, let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Again, I'll read all the comments below. I don't necessarily always respond to them because I do get hundreds and hundreds, and of course it's not just this video, but all previous videos continue to get comments. So if I don't respond to you, I do apologise, but I do absolutely read them all. Let me know what bikes you'd like to see me ride, and is the Multistrada one of those? And from those comments I kind of work out which bikes I should borrow. All right, bringing airbags to the streets. Now, airbags are something that I've really got into in the last year. I've been riding with, I rode previously with a tethered one, and now I've got an untethered one. And this is from a company called InMotion. Which is actually the company that I use for my current untethered bike, untethered airbag, sorry. I have an airbag, it's made by Furigan, but it's got the InMotion technology, which is what this article is all about. So the start of airbags inflating has become a common one in MotoGP since the tech became mandatory in 2018. But InMotion, one of the companies supplying that gear, they supply it for MotoGP, want to see more road riders adopting the kit. Well, of course they do. InMotion don't make their own clothing. Instead, they choose to partner with existing brands like RST, Furigan, Klim and Held, who offer the jackets that the kit goes into. As I mentioned, I've got the Furigan one. Suits and undervests incorporate the InMotion technology. I found it very easy to use, actually. It says here, although InMotion will sell you an InMotion box for €399, most opt for the lease scheme, which is £12 per month. Bit odd, I don't know how I feel about that. If you lease it, there's like an annual charge, which is about £100 actually, and that way it updates itself with the latest algorithmic information from crashes that have happened and real deployments. So it keeps it bang up to date and probably most likely to deploy when you want it. I guess the worry with these is you kind of trust that they're going to work, and of course you don't want to fall off to test it. And I've thrown my airbag all around this room and it's never deployed, but I'm told it does know when you genuinely have a crash. So there's a bit of trust involved, but I'm willing to give it a try. They do keep you a bit warm, so if you're in a hot country, maybe it's something to think about. Is the extra safety, does that mean more to you than the extra heat you're gonna have? But in this country, in Blighty, especially this time of year, October, it's autumn now, starting to get a bit cooler. Actually, these keep you nice and warm, and I think, well, as I say, I'm a convert. You look a bit like the Michelin Man in them, but they do give you a bit of extra safety, and it's hard to argue against that. Anyway, it says here 3 accelerometers, 3 gyroscopes and a GPS feed data into algorithms that detect a crash. It takes less than 60 milliseconds to detect an accident and inflate the airbag. So I recommend them to the house. I'm a big fan. I just think maybe one day, let's hope they don't get made mandatory, because I maybe don't wear them in the summer, depending on what sort of bike I'm riding, but it would be great to see more people wearing these. I think they're a great thing now that the technology is coming, a little bit more mainstream. Right, next here. Royal Enfield Conti is ready to race. I just brought this up because I thought this looked amazing. Royal Enfield here have come up with a race series in India where they're using faired Royal Enfield Interceptor GTs, or is it, I can't remember what they're called now, but the GT version of the 650, putting these fairings on and racing them, and I think they look absolutely brilliant. If they sold them in this country, I'd buy one as a retro racer. Anyway, what it says here is Royal Enfield's big-selling 650 cafe racer has been breathed on for a new one-make race series which kicks off in India later this month. It's dubbed the GT-R650. It's a factory-tuned, lightened and faired version of the road-going Continental GT. That was the word I was struggling to remember. So yeah, Continental GT with a fairing. Looks brilliant, doesn't it? No lights and stuff, so you couldn't necessarily ride it on the road. Well, certainly not at night time anyway. But it looks a biz as like a retro racer. Along with a specially developed fairing and belly pan, the racing GTRs also feature a special stainless race exhaust which boosts power by 12%. Wow. Now these aren't particularly powerful bikes anyway, so anyway, anything's worth having. So it's gone from 47 to 53 brake horsepower. Weight has been slashed by 24 kilograms. Now that is a massive weight saver, isn't it? I bet this feels great to ride and great fun. You could thrash it around a track, couldn't you? Absolutely pin it. There's also stiffer race-tuned suspension front and rear. No word yet on whether the kit will be available in the UK, but if there's a positive response, then it's surely only a matter of time. Well, I said earlier, I'm not necessarily a big track racer fan, but if you could get one of these for, say, I don't know, given the cost of these is about, what, £6.5 something like that. If you get it with the fairing and that for maybe £7.5, and you just call that a track day bike and you could enjoy yourself absolutely welling it around your local circuit, I think I'd be up for one of those. So it's a thumbs up from me to Royal Enfield. So if they want a bit of positive feedback, they're definitely getting it from me. Let's have them in the UK. And yeah, probably put me down to buy one. I think they look great. What do you think to those? Worth doing here in the UK or not? Again, comments below. Interested to see your thoughts on that. Right, next up. Easyriders, stress-free on the commute, fun at weekends, but which is best? This is the, again, this segment that is very competitive at the moment. Yamaha Trace 7 v V-Strom 650 v Honda NC750. Now I have to say, of all these, and again I've been lucky enough to ride them all in various guises over the years, not necessarily the latest versions of all of them, I think the NC750 looks the nicest bike. It's a really overlooked bike, that. It got a bit of bad press, I think, when it was initially launched, because I think there was stuff coming out saying that it was built with half of an engine out of a Honda car, and it was all a bit lackluster and breathless and stuff. But actually, I don't find that to be the case. I did find that you have to stir the gearbox a lot on it to get it to move. But if you've got one with DCT, that no longer becomes a problem. I think the 750 with DCT would be absolutely brilliant. And what I really like about it is the looks of the bike. Again, I need to get off my backside and arrange this, but I need to have a chat to my friends at Honda, who are also very good to me with regards to loaning me bikes, and see if I can borrow one of these for an extended period of time. I'd love to get to know one, a DCT version, and ride that around and bring you some long-term reports. The V-Strom I know is a lovely bike. I've got the 1000, as I say, I've just had the 1000. The 650, some would argue, is an even better bike because it's lighter and easier to manage. And then the Tracer 7 is doing great things for Yamaha and looks great with its redesign this year as well. So yeah, 3 great bikes there. You wouldn't be disappointed with either. What is their verdict? So they've given each bike 4 stars out of 5. MCN, come on, it's time you got more granular with your marking. Give it 10 stars, and then you can have a bit more variation between them. Just that star scheme doesn't help us decide between them, does it? But what does John Ari say? The Suzuki is a workhorse of a bike. It has the best range, the biggest tank, the most protective fairing, and the squishiest seat. But it also has the least impressive motor. Fair enough. The Honda is also a workhorse, but is one with a bit more style, tech, and practicality. The Yamaha isn't perfect, and taller riders will find it cramped, but it's most fun to ride, has the best handling, and is also the most spirited engine. If that sounds like your motoring, then buy the Tracer. If you're looking to hack through the traffic, we'd pick the Suzuki. While if you want the best of both worlds, it's the Honda. So there we go. I think, again, I'm a bit of a, I buy bikes probably 70% by the way they look with regard to, which is outrageous, I know, not just down to spec and how they ride. And I think the Honda looks the best out of that lot. Also, it's super practical because not only can you get it with the DCT version, but it's got that storage under where the fuel tank normally is, which I think is brilliant. The fuel itself is actually low down, so the centre of gravity is nice and low again, making it an easy bike to live with. So for me, I'd go for the Honda, then probably the V-Strom, then probably the Tracer. Again, just my opinion. Don't hate me for it if you've got a Tracer. I'm not saying it's a bad bike by any means. They're all great bikes. I'm just saying, for me, I'd probably take the Honda, which is actually the second most expensive, the V-Strom being the most expensive. All right, that's it for that paper. I think I haven't missed anything, have I? No. Good. All right, 2 more to go. Still with me? Right, this is a bumper paper because once a year MCN do their Bike of the Year competition and they name the best bike in various categories. So we'll come to some of those in a moment as we go through. I've just picked out a few of those that I found surprising or maybe that I disagree with, but some other stuff first. Kawasaki Hybrid revealed. Kawasaki say that come 2025 they will be launching an average of 16 new models a year. That's a lot, isn't it? Kawasaki has also revealed that they're developing a hydrogen fuel technology for internal combustion engines. Burning hydrogen instead of petrol means the exhaust would simply be water vapour, while retaining the performance and visceral appeal of an internal combustion engine. This is brilliant, isn't it? So basically, you have something that sounds and feels like a petrol engine, but it's running on hydrogen. Absolutely fantastic. Now, there's quite a bit of technology involved in these. I understand for hydrogen to work properly, you have to use direct fuel injection, and apparently Kawasaki have mastered that. And also because Kawasaki have got so much expertise in supercharging, which is something else you need to do with hydrogen because of the way that the density of hydrogen compares with petrol vapour. You need to pump more of it into the cylinders to get the same combustion ratio. Again, Kawasaki know a thing or two about supercharging motorcycles, so this could actually be a realistic alternative to electric bikes in the future. For my money, I'd far rather have a hydrogen powered one, albeit I've got a little bit in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, 101 Hindenburg, but anyway. So as long as it doesn't blow up on you, then I think it sounds like a great idea. So I'm going to keep my eye out on Kawasaki's development of this, because it sounds like something really interesting. Would you be up for a hydrogen bike over an electric one, or are you worried about sitting on a hydrogen bomb? Put it like that, maybe it's a bit scary. Anyway, I like the idea, so we'll keep an eye on that one over the next few months and years. Right, next up, what have we got here? New bike still selling strongly. This is a great news story here in the UK because obviously with the pandemic you'd expect things to not be going too well, but it turns out new bike sales have bounced back brilliantly so far in 2021. The BMW R1250 GS is still Britain's best-selling big bike and has been for absolutely years. For good reason, it's a great bike. Honda's PCX125 fought back against Yamaha's NMAX 125 in September to claim top spot in the 125 scooter class. And the PCX125 again is a bike I recently rode. I absolutely loved it. If you haven't seen that review in the corner. But Triumph's Speed Twin soared to the top of the modern classic category. Really pleased to hear that. I'm a Speed Twin owner, as you may know, and they brought out a new version of the bike. With a few tweaks really, mainly suspension front end changes. I did borrow one a few weeks back, and I've got a video in the can coming soon comparing the new Speed Twin to my older Speed Twin. So if you're interested in that bike, stick around and stay tuned for that, because it's kind of I come to a conclusion about whether it's worth buying a second-hand previous model or whether to go for the newer model. So that video is coming up soon if you're interested in the Speed Twin. But good news that bike sales are holding up strongly. Next up, SV650's Yellow Fever. Suzuki have added some extra colours to the mid-size V-Strom 650 and V-Strom 650 XT adventure machines. I only mention this because I've got a thing about yellow on the V-Strom. I think it looks great. Maybe it's the gold wheels again that are sucking me in, maybe. If you want the fancy yellow paint scheme, then you'll need to plump for the spoked wheel XT, which costs a bit more. The biggest draw to the 650 though is really the price, and the standard model just costs $7,999, while the XT with its wire wheels and handguards is $8,299. Again, great everyday motorcycle. I do love a V-Strom me, and I think in yellow it just looks great. All right, crikey. See, that just shows how I go by looks of bikes. They stick gold wheels on it and a yellow paint scheme, suddenly I love the bike. I've always loved V-Stroms though, to be fair. Retro Renaissance, here we go. Moto Guzzi V7 Stone, and thank you to everybody who told me how to pronounce Moto Guzzi last time I asked how that worked. Got good feedback on that. Versus the Ducati Scrambler Nightshift. Now, I've pointed this one out. Number one, because I quite like these comparisons that MCN do. And number two, because these are two bikes that actually I don't really like. So I'll be interested to see which one they like, if any. Do you like these bikes? Again, I don't want to be unfair. I don't think I've ever ridden the V7 Stone. I've ridden a few V7 V-twins, and they didn't blow me away. Maybe I'm missing the point, although I love the idea of a Moto Guzzi. The Ducati Scrambler, I'm a Ducati fan, but the Scrambler is probably my least favourite of all their range. This is the 803cc smaller Scrambler. The bigger Scrambler, it's the 1100 that I rode in Tuscany a few years back. Again, if you haven't seen that tour with Tuscany Motorcycle Tours, I'll stick a link in the corner to that series where I rode the big brother of the Scrambler, and I loved that, but the smaller one, not so keen on. What is the verdict that MCN came up with? Here we go. They've given the Moto Guzzi 4 out of 5 and the Scrambler 4 out of 5. Once again, we can't tell, thank you MCN, from their scoring which one they prefer. But if we look at the text, it says here, the Guzzi is a revitalised old bike, the Scrambler is a retro-styled new one. I like that, what we've done there. The Stone is the base model of the V7 family. The Nightshift is top of the Scrambler 800 one. Although both are significant improvements over the old bikes, particularly the Guzzi, we wouldn't actually have either. We'd go for a different variant instead. That's interesting, I like that. So they're saying don't go for these variants, don't go for the Stone and the Nightshift, go for something else. In Stone spec, the Guzzi annoys and its blackness is drab. Go for the 8600 Chrome and Twin Dial Special instead. Good insight here. And we struggle to justify the 10k plus of the Nightshift. I'd have the 8k Icon Dark if you're going to go for the Scrambler instead and save yourself a couple of grand. So there we go, that's from Phil West. He's probably my second favourite road tester with MCN. So yeah, it doesn't really say which one they prefer, but they're saying don't go for these particular versions, the Stone or the Nightshift, because they're a bit overpriced for what you get. Fair enough. Right, next up, we're on to number 5. All right, we're into the bike of the year stuff now. So I just thought I'd point out a few of these. I first of all had to tell you what MCN gave the overall bike of the year award to, and that is the Aprilia RS660, a beautiful looking mid-size sports bike. It says here, sporting superbike inspired looks, quality components and electronics, the RS features slightly lower pegs, taller bars, big screen and a comfortable seat, allowing riders to enjoy the thrill of sports bike ownership without the risk taken sore knees. So once again, I suspect this is aimed at people like me, maybe slightly maturing in their years, that still love the idea of a sports bike but find some of the more hairy, leery ones a bit too impractical. This one is more practical. Despite Euro 5 meddling, the 659cc practical twin produces a claimed 99 brake horsepower, ample for the road again. and it outperforms similar sized two-pot Suzuki SV650, Ninja 650 and MT-07 by as much as 32 brake horsepower. If you want to know more about ownership of these bikes, by the way, do go and check out one of my current favourite YouTube channels, that is Wheelie Good TV. Wheelie as in doing a wheelie, not wheelie as in really with a sort of a speech impediment. Go and see Dave there on that channel. Again, if I remember, I'll put a link in the description below. If you've not watched that channel before, Dave is a fantastic producer of videos, a really nice guy. It so happens I've met him actually as well. He's recently bought one of these. He also has a Royal Enfield Continental 650, and he has a GS as well, so he's a bit of a collector and he likes similar bikes to me. We've got a lot in common. A really nice guy, makes amazing videos as well. He's a BBC cameraman by trade, so he knows how to make a video. Go and check out his videos if you're interested in the Aprilia RS660. Subscribe to him, and there's plenty more information on that bike there, so there you go. Little plug for you there, Dave. But he is definitely worth watching. Go and have a look at Dave's channel, Wheelie Good TV. Right, next one that I want to point out, they've given the best sub 1000 naked of the year category to the Ducati Monster, which I completely agree with. This is a bike, again, I rode relatively recently when my Panigale was in for a service. If I've got enough cards left, I'll put a link in the corner to that video as well. This bike surprised me. I really loved it. So this, I think, is a great winner for this category. 10,536 gets you the Monster. It is a beautiful bike to ride, look at, gives you a bit of that Italian exotica again. Really like that, really nice bike. Next up, heavyweight boxer. They've given best cruiser of the year to the BMW R18. This one I completely disagree with. Now, I don't know if it's because they have to give these awards to bikes that have come out this year. Maybe they try and bias it that way. I'm not even sure what the R18 did, to be honest. But I wouldn't give the R18 this one. I'd give the Harley Davidson Fat Boy this award, which I know has been around for donkey's years. But having ridden both recently, I way prefer the Fat Boy. The BMW is beautiful to look at and a beautiful thing to behold. It's like art. But riding it, I just found too hard work. I couldn't live with it. It's too heavy to lug around. I would rather have some of the other bikes that they mentioned here, like the Triumph Rocket 3, which is, again, an amazing bike. But I'd still rather have the Harley over that. Who would have thought? So there we go. Disagree with that one. Next up, well, I'm picking out things that are surprises maybe. This is the best do-it-all bike of the year, the Ducati Multistrada V4S. I've already sung the praises of the Multistrada. Well, they've made the V4S their best overall do-it-all bike, which is incredible. I mean, this is an expensive machine, yet it still comes out top. And MCN take things like value for money into account when they make these awards. So it's 18756 for the V4S, and they've given it its best overall bike, which I don't disagree with. I'd say I've yet to ride one, but I've not seen a bad review of this bike. It looks beautiful. I'm thoroughly open to the idea that it is a great bike. So again, see if I can ride one of those next year. And then I couldn't get to go through these awards without mentioning the best adventure bike of the year 2021 for MCN is, once again, the BMW R1250 GS. In adventure, guys, but I think it applies across the board. The GS, you know I'm a GS fan. I absolutely love that bike. I think it's the best all-rounder, actually. Potentially, I would have given the GS the best all-rounder title, and maybe give the Multistrada the best adventure bike of the year. I don't know. Either way, they're both worthy winners of those titles because they're both great bikes. And it's great to see that the GS is still doing amazing things, even though it has things against it, like, you know, everybody says that it's an old man's bike and old tech. The box has been around for years and all that stuff. All a load of rubbish. Ride one if you haven't done so. You'll see why it's so popular. It is a great bike. So a worthy winner there as well. So thank you, MCN, for doing that little study across the board. One more before we stop on the bikes of the year. They've given the BMW R1250RT the best tourer. It always wins this category. I disagree with this one. I do like the RT, don't get me wrong, it's a lovely bike, but if money's no object, I think the Honda Goldwing is by far a nicer bike to ride. I just don't think there's a better touring bike. Now, I do have a Honda Goldwing, so people are going to say you're biased, but the reason I have one is because I bought one because I thought it was the best touring bike. So, you know, chicken and egg there. But yeah, I think I would go for the Goldwing over the RT any day. That said, I mentioned earlier that BMW take into account value for money. It might be that the cost of the Goldwing, if you get the DCT Tour with airbag like mine, is pretty much twice the basic cost of the R1250RT, and it's not twice the bike, I'll give it that. But anyway, interesting that they've gone for that. It always wins. There we go. So that was it for the bikes of the year, I think. One more story here. Coming of age, this is interesting. CFMoto brings Chinese bikes in line with big name brands. Now, I often mention Chinese bikes. I've just done a review actually of the Sinis on my channel a couple of videos ago. Go and check that out. That was a nice bike to ride. The fit and finish on it was appalling, and it kind of put me off that whole idea a bit. This one, maybe it's changing that. We'll see. So Mike Armitage here, Deputy Editor, has said this is quite a big deal. We're used to accepting small, super cheap Chinese bikes as pretty much disposable, and now larger ones need accessing with their low price at front of mind. But the CFMoto marks the moment when a Chinese-built machine can be judged against established rivals without caveat. So that's quite something, isn't it? He's saying this is up there with the best of them. The CLX does the job of Ducati's Scrambler icon with a better ride and a 2,200 saving. It's comfier and nicer on a Sunday thrum than Triumph's Trident, which costs 1,100 more, and whilst not as fruity as Yamaha's XSR 700, it's 900 cheaper, and it also comes with a 4-year warranty, which is quite something, isn't it? It looks good. I've never ridden a CFMoto. MCN are saying this bike is maybe at last, this is where we see Chinese quality really coming of age. Again, I'm always saying it, ignore Chinese bikes at your peril. Yes, there are some duds out there, but it looks like there are some pretty good ones coming through too, so keep your eye out on the CFMotos. Okay, how are we doing for time? Still with me? Excellent. Right, last paper. Only a couple of stories here to pull out, and then I'll let you go. And then we've got some Parish Notices, of course, so do stick around to the very end. This isn't just a paper review. I meant to mention that at the start. Parish Notices got some interesting stuff to tell you there. Modifying could be made illegal. This is a terrible story. Check this out. MAG calls on bikers to respond to new plans that could make fitting non-OEM parts a crime. Can you believe this? DFT's Future of Transport review has come out, and it says that under the proposed changes, it would be a crime to tamper with a system part or component of a vehicle intended or adapted to be used on a road. Now, this is the case of one of these unintended consequences type legislation if this comes to being. Colin Brown, MAG's Director of Campaigns and Political Engagement, says, as the owner of a motorcycle with less OEM parts than aftermarket ones, you can imagine my reaction. This renewed attack on the right to do what you want with your own property is not something that I can see many motorcyclists welcoming. The reasons for the proposed changes are twofold. One, it's emissions standards, and the other one is because the government are trying to get ahead of autonomous vehicles, where they're saying that the safety of autonomous vehicles is entirely reliant on the system doing as expected. So you start changing things with autonomous vehicles, they may not do as expected, and therefore that should be made illegal. Well, I get that. Maybe they should make this legislation only apply then to autonomous vehicles. Why apply it across the board so that motorcycles get impacted too? This would be a nightmare. It means we wouldn't be able to put our own exhaust on, we couldn't put a belly pan on, change the mirrors, anything like that, which we absolutely don't want to do. If you feel strongly about this like I do, then you can get involved in the government consultation. Again, I'll put a link below in the description to this one. This is important to click on this when you've done with watching the video. The consultation is very short. It's only 8 weeks long rather than the usual 12, and you can put your thoughts in there. Again, I'll put a link below. It's a smart survey, so look for the smart survey link below and go and put your thoughts in there. Clearly the government has some good intentions with these proposals, however it's clear that the knock-on effect of what they are suggesting would be ruinous for the motorcycle industry. This is a big deal. We've got to do something about this, folks. Go and fill out that, follow that link, fill out the feedback. Right, letter here, following up from what we just talked about with CFMoto. This is from Andrew Thorpe, actually an email. He said, really good review on the CFMoto 700CL, the Chinese bike we just looked at. I noticed the service intervals are still only 3,000 miles for the CFMoto, whereas a Trident is every 10,000. Good point. Looking, if you'd ride 10,000 miles per annum, which not many bikers do, but let's just park that for now. If you're riding 10,000 per annum, let's just use ballpark numbers and say 10k per year for 4 years at 150 per service. The Triumph would cost 600, whereas the CFMoto would be nearly 2,000, 1950. So thereby clawing back more than the price difference to start with. An interesting thought that wasn't mentioned in that article. So something to bear in mind. Do look at service intervals. I mean, again, who really does 10,000? Actually, these 3,000 of the CFMoto is pretty much what I think that's the average for bikers per year anyway. So it's probably realistic, so it may not be important for you, but if you are a higher mileage biker, then that is something maybe to consider. Servicing costs might become a factor. All right, last story before we're on to Parish Notices then, and this is the review of the new Suzuki GT, the GSX S1000 GT to give it its full title. So as I say, the launch I think was well, a couple of weeks ago now up in a rainy Scotland. My mate Richie Vida went, go and check out his videos. I didn't go on this one. I was elsewhere in the sunshine, hence the tan. Have I said that already? 11,599 this is going to cost you, which I think is a bargain for what you're getting. The Suzuki is for smiley Sunday morning tarmac and big road trips, just like the Kawasaki Ninja S1000 SX it's gunning for. The 999 inline 4 makes 150 brake horsepower, which is blisteringly fast when you rev it hard. It's also tuned for low down grunt. Well, that's good. Standard issue up-down quick shifter as well, which are always fun, aren't they? It's got ABS and 5-stage traction control, but there's no IMU gyro, so it's not lean angle sensitive ABS and traction control. But those only come into play in very specific use cases, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. The ride is supremely comfortable. It says here, legroom is generous. There's very little not to like about the bike. It's properly sorted and well thought out. And this is Michael Neves saying this, so this is a guy whom I trust. It says here, Suzuki's new GSX S1000 is effortlessly quick, comfortable, practical, reassuring, and exciting too. Exactly what a sports tourer should be. This is great news. Superb value for all the metal tech and performance you get. It's Suzuki's best bike in a very long time. There you go. You don't get much more praise than that, do you? Michael Neves absolutely loves the bike. Cannot wait to have a go again. Suzuki, if I can have one, put me on your list quite soon, because I'd love a go on one of these. It looks great. I'm happy to ride it in the winter. It'll be a proper test that way. But anyway, there we go. Hopefully I'll get my hands on one at some point, but it does look good, and these initial reviews are saying it goes as good as it looks. Alrighty, that's it for the paper review. A quick bit of Parish Notices for those of you that watch the channel regularly. Oh, don't forget TMF merchandise, mugs, t-shirts, all that sort of game at www.themissingtonflyer.com. Little advert for you there. Right, moving on, Parish Notices then. Eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed at the beginning of this video, a new sponsor has joined the clan. It's a company called Biker Heads. That's sort of a rebranding of a company called Tran-Am that actually, you may not realise, are the UK's largest supplier of premium motorcycle clothing and accessories. I'm absolutely thrilled that they've come aboard and are now sponsoring the channel from, well, technically the 1st of November onwards, but you've seen the logo at the start and finish, so you now know who Biker Heads are. You're going to be seeing and hearing more about those in the next few weeks a month. So thank you to those guys for coming aboard. Without sponsors and Patreons and members, I just couldn't sustain the Missington Flyer. So that's great news. Another thing I wanted to mention, if you're at Loose End this weekend coming, the National Motorcycle Museum are once again running their NMM live event. It's free of charge to go. It's at Birmingham. I don't know if you know the National Motorcycle Museum, but it's just near the NEC there, so it's centrally located in the country. It's running over 2 days this time. Usually it used to be just 1 day, so it's the 30th and 31st of October at the National Motorcycle Museum. It's free of charge. Aha, we're back. Sorry about that. I said the camera might overheat, and that's exactly what happened, so apologies. I think it is time maybe I invested in that new GoPro after all. Anyway, where were we? Yes, the National Motorcycle Museum live this coming weekend. It's free of charge as well. There might be a slight charge if you go in your car for parking, but it's free to get in. And the great thing is there's lots of free of charge attractions, things like Henry Cole and friends. My old mate Henry Cole is going to be there, together with another of my old mates, Alan Millyard. They're going to be giving a series of talks together with people like Peter Hickman, John McGuinness, Guy Willison, and others. And again, as I say, it's all free of charge. So go down there, show the National Motorcycle Museum some love. They've had a tough time through the pandemic, so if you are free at the weekend, go and check that out. It'll be a great event. Wish I could be there with you. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be there, but maybe next year. And then, just to let you know what's coming up on the channel as well, I've got, on the 3rd of November, I've got a video called What's Wrong With My Custom Interceptor. Now, I had massive views of the video that I put up revealing my new Interceptor after all the work that I've had done on it, but there's a few things about that bike that I don't like, a few things that haven't quite been done as I'd asked, and a few things that I think are missing. It's interesting reading your comments, because a lot of your comments said exactly the same as what I was thinking as well. So there's a video about what I'm going to have changed on that bike. In fact, I made that video a day after I picked it up, and the bike is now back again at the custom shop being worked on. They've had it for another couple of weeks, so that's coming. And another question that came up all the time was, how much did that work cost me? I will be making a video on that as well once everything's finalised, so stay tuned to the channel if you're interested in that as well, because that's something that no one ever talks about, isn't it? Next up, Suzuki V-Strom in-depth video. That's coming up again. That's a great bike, as I mentioned before. I did the first ride review. I've got the in-depth review, riding it in all sorts of conditions on all sorts of roads. That's coming up as well if you're interested in the big V-Strom. I've got the Harley Davidson Fat Bob. I've got like a hog vlog coming up. That's again an amazing machine. This year I've definitely been a Harley Davidson convert, so look out for that one. And one for your diary, the next bike news should be on the 24th of November at the end of next month. Can't believe we're already into November. It's outrageous, isn't it? Now, as you know, I'm now posting videos every Wednesday. There may well be some other things that I want to get up during the month. I don't know what they are at the moment. Some bonus videos. If that happens, then they'll be going up on Saturdays as well. So stick around and stay tuned to the channel for that. Just want to say thank you to my sponsors as ever, my loyal patrons and members as well. Without you guys, I couldn't keep the Missington Flyer going. And of course, huge thank you to you for watching all the way to the end of this probably quite lengthy video. Thanks once again. Hope that's been of interest. Looking forward to reading your comments below, and I'll see see you next time. Until then, this has been the Mist and Fly. Cheerio. Hey folks, it's the Mist and Fly here, hope you're well. And once again, let's do that again. Aha, we're back, sorry about that.